So, what can happen to you if you drive into the core of the storm or core punch a storm? Well, several bad things. First of all, you can drive into very large hail and seriously damage your vehicle, including losing windshields or other windows, such as this picture here. You could encounter serious problems with the rain, including zero visibility and slick roads. If you are driving in rain and you encounter hail that increases in size, your best bet is to turn around. You may be driving into a hail core and not even know it. And if you keep driving into the core of the storm, you could end up driving right into the tornado itself. When talking about core punching and dealing with the hail that you might come across, hail poses a traffic hazard because sometimes it hails enough that it actually covers the roadway, and this can also reduce traction, and it can cause something called hail fog, which is going to limit visibility. Hail danger can be prevented if the spotter is familiar with the road networks and is attentive to storm trends and structure, along with movement. Hail injuries and fatalities are something that we don't hear much about. Hail fatalities are very rare, but significant injuries are still possible. It is estimated that about 24 people a year are injured from large hail. So, if you're thinking about investigating that large hailstone that's outside as a spotter, you may want to think twice about that. A baseball-sized hailstone falls at a speed comparable to a baseball thrown from a major league pitcher, near 100 miles an hour. While you're out there spotting, you may notice certain storms may take on a greenish or turquoise color to them, and usually that's a good indication that that storm contains a lot of hail. Now, there's a lot of school of thought on what causes that, but a quote here from a Texas A&M University professor states that the most popular theory is that thunderstorms contain a lot of water, obviously, often in the form of hail, and this water or ice tends to scatter green light during the strong updrafts that occur in severe thunderstorms. So if you come across a storm and it has that green or turquoise hue to it, you definitely want to stay away from that storm because it probably contains a large amount of hail. If you find yourself on the leading edge of a storm and do not have access to any other type of shelter and could not get away from the storm quickly enough, you may just have to brace yourself for the potential strong winds. The best thing to do is try to point your vehicle directly toward the line or directly away from the line. The last thing you want to do is park your vehicle broadside so that the winds have a better chance of possibly rolling you. The aerodynamics of your vehicle should give you a better chance of staying safe if you point directly toward the line or away from the line. Remember that squall lines and bow echoes and other types of storms can have the potential to produce very strong winds, in some cases up to 90 miles an hour. So the key here is you need to be able to act quickly and move to a safer location, or at the very least, make sure that your car is positioned so that you have the best chance of staying safe. As a storm spotter, it's going to be very easy for you to become fixated on one particular part of the storm that interests you. But the key here is to not get trapped into looking at one particular part of the scene in front of you, but to maintain awareness of what's going on all around you in all quads and always be prepared for a surprise event. It's important to keep your head on a swivel and always look all around and overhead. And that's why spotting with a partner is a very good idea. They can be your extra set of eyes and ears to help you stay safe. As a spotter, you may come across a situation to where you need to take shelter from a potential tornado. So I wanted to go over tornado safety tips with you so that you can remain safe. Obviously, a place that has a basement or a storm cellar is going to be your best bet. If you take refuge in that basement, always be aware that debris can fall into the basement, so it's important to get underneath a sturdy item such as a workbench, and also know where heavy objects may rest on the floor above you. As an alternative shelter, the next best place to be during a tornado is a small interior room on the lowest floor of the building or home that you are in. Getting into a closet, a bathroom, or a hallway, or even under a stairwell is going to be the best bet. Trying to put as many walls between you and the outside is going to be important. Getting down low to the ground and covering your head is also important. Wearing a helmet can save your life. Try to cover yourself with blankets or pillows to prevent yourself from getting injured from flying debris. That's also why it's important to stay away from windows or any type of glass, because usually those are first to be destroyed. When you're out there storm spotting, it's a very good idea to wear long pants, even a long sleeve shirt, and good shoes, just in case you get into a bad situation. Always have your cell phone. Always have your cell phone charged and ready to go, even having it plugged into your car charger at all times, just in case you may need it. You never want to take refuge in a mobile home when there is a tornado that's imminent, and also you never want to stay in your vehicle. It's very important, as a storm spotter, that you allow enough time to get to shelter. If you feel threatened by a potential tornado, you need to escape and get out of the way of the tornado and get to a shelter. Keep in mind that back in May of 2013, the El Reno tornado, there were 8 people that died in that tornado. All of those deaths were vehicle-related deaths because of the erratic nature of the tornado, which we'll discuss here in a little bit. Something that a mobile spotter definitely needs to be well aware of is that tornadoes can move in erratic directions, sometimes without warning. And we at the National Weather Service are obviously tracking the circulation and the supposed location of the tornado. But remember that we are not receiving data in real time. I'm waiting at least about 4 minutes between each scan before I'm getting new data. So the tornado could have taken a jog to the north or sped up or slowed down in that 4 minutes, and I'm not going to know about it until I get that latest scan. So therefore, don't always take the radar data as verbatim, as reality, because the 2 examples that you see there, you can obviously see where the radar data went wrong. In this example here with the Elk City tornado, the red line is where the radar estimated the tornado to be located at those specific times. The damage survey showed the actual tornado path to be well south of this red line and also take a pretty abrupt turn to the north-northeast. Another example are tornadoes that occurred in May of 1999 near Oklahoma City. The red line is again the radar estimated path of the circulation and subsequent tornado. Purple lines are where the 3 tornadoes actually occurred, one of which being an F5 that went into parts of Oklahoma City. As you can see, the tornadoes occurred further to the east and obviously took a little bit of a right turn here, and the radar did not adequately estimate those paths. A more recent example is the El Reno tornado, which occurred in May of 2013, and this tornado actually took the lives of 3 storm chasers because of its erratic behavior. The tornado began moving to the southeast and eventually leveled out and started moving more in an easterly direction. But during the last several minutes of its life cycle, it decided to take a turn to the northeast, something that normally doesn't happen. Storm chasers were located on the north side of the storm, figured they were okay because the storm was looking like it was moving in a southeasterly or east-southeasterly direction, and were not anticipating the possibility that this tornado could curve up to the northeast, and they were unable to flee the storm in time. So the bottom line here is that you always have to be ready for a tornado to change paths on you, to speed up or to slow down, and these are not always things that we as forecasters will be able to correctly identify. So always have to be on top of your game and ready for anything. Other places that you want to avoid during tornadoes are places with high ceilings, such as school gymnasiums, churches, even large big box stores such as Walmart's or Home Depot's. And the reason for that is this is a picture from the Joplin EF5 tornado, which occurred several years ago. And these walls are called tilt-up walls. And a lot of times with the very strong to violent tornadoes, once they blow apart one wall panel, they all start to fall. So the failure becomes increasingly catastrophic when you have strong tornadoes because all the walls start crumbling down. So it's good to find a safe room no matter where you're at. If you're expecting severe weather or you're thinking about a potential shelter, think about where inside that structure you may go for shelter. Be aware that tornadoes do not always present themselves so that you can see them clearly. Sometimes tornadoes are shrouded by rain, rain-wrapped, or possibly shrouded in debris. Sometimes they're so large and wedge-typed that you may not recognize them as being a tornado at all. Other times there can be bad contrast between the tornado and surrounding cloud material around it. Bad lighting or lack of lighting can also cause problems. So the key here is, if you think you're near enough to a circulation that you should be seeing a possible tornado, but you're not, keep in mind that it may just be hidden, and that can be especially dangerous. Another item that storm spotters may have to deal with are strong, damaging downburst winds. And we categorize downbursts as microbursts and macrobursts. And a macroburst is an area of damage that's less than 2.5 miles across, and a macroburst is an area of damage which is greater than 2.5 miles across. We've had a couple of macrobursts in our area, and it's actually something that is usually a very rare event, but in 2014 we actually had 2 macroburst events, one in southern Indiana and another one which occurred in western Kentucky. And the problem with these macrobursts, and even with microbursts, its smaller cousin, is that lead times can be very short, which means we may not see them developing on radar until it's almost occurring or just literally a few minutes before it occurs. So even though you may have a warning in effect, it may not be a lot of lead time. In addition, we may not know the full magnitude of the actual wind until after it passes through and does some damage. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to the verbiage of the warning once it's issued, and also be watching for subsequent updates to the warnings as we receive damage reports and we can update the wind speeds that we are expecting with that particular microburst or macroburst. This slide is dedicated to that gut feeling that you get when you're out there spotting and you just have this feeling that you just need to get the heck out of there. And I'm here to tell you that that is something that you should definitely heed, that gut instinct. And there's going to be some times when you can see ahead and you know what's coming and you need to just turn around and head to a safer location. When the sky is looking especially vicious, you need to follow that gut instinct and head to safety. A good spotter is going to know where the potential shelters might be located. If you are going to be spotting in a specific county or counties, it's a good idea to scout out where potential shelters may be, whether they are shopping centers or gas stations or wherever the case may be. Knowing where those shelters are very important. If there's time, turn your vehicle around and head the other way and get out of the way of the storm. You can always go back to your original location and send us damage reports from the storm. But if you have to stay there and you have not allowed yourself enough time to escape, always be prepared to brace yourself for very high winds which may occur. I want to talk about the dangers of overpasses now and why they are not safe places to take refuge during a tornado. The key here is that in a tornado, winds are stronger the higher you go. And so if you are near the ground, say in a ditch, the winds are going to approach 0 near the ground. But the higher up you go, the stronger the winds are. So if you're up off the ground, underneath the overpass, higher up, those are where the stronger winds are going to be. Also, if the tornado happens to pass directly over the overpass, the winds are forced underneath that overpass, creating a wind tunnel effect, which in essence makes the winds stronger than they already were. Also, keep in mind that tornado debris can injure or possibly kill you. Dirt, sand, and rocks can easily penetrate clothing and skin, causing serious injuries and possibly death. Very fine debris can be forced into your eyes, causing injury as well. If the tornadic winds are strong enough, you can be blown out of the overpass and carried away quite a distance. Most overpasses do not have any beams or anything for you to hang on to, or do they have any crawl spaces for you to kind of take refuge in. And lastly, the highway can become blocked if you park your car and everybody else has that same idea, and that poses a serious threat to those who are trying to flee the oncoming tornado. The best bet is to try to get out of the tornado's path and seek shelter in a well-constructed building. It is absolutely essential for mobile spotters to have planned escape routes. You always have to think about what you might do if you somehow end up trapped. Remember that roads and storms can create situations that you didn't expect to happen. And remember that maps and GPSs are not always accurate. It can be easy to find yourself with no escape route as a storm bears down on you, so you always have to plan ahead and know your area well. Here is a list of mobile spotter essentials. Take a few minutes to look over this list and make sure that you have at least most of these items with you. You may even think of some items that are not on this list, and that's great too. Most important thing is a way to receive radar data. I believe that's the most important thing to have as a mobile spotter, is a way to receive that radar data, to know where you are in reference to the storm and watching the evolution of that storm so that you can stay safe. I wanted to take some time to talk about what happens after the storm goes through. Staying out of damaged areas, whether that's tornadic damage or simply severe thunderstorm wind damage. Mobile spotters are advised to avoid places that are damaged unless you've been specifically asked to participate with cleanup or rescue efforts. Damaged paths are obviously full of many hazards, including downed power lines, jagged pieces of sheet metal, broken boards, etc. And you might be in the way of cleanup or search and rescue. Locals are usually not appreciative of people walking around and taking a look at their damage, and you could be taken for a potential looter. This last slide is dedicated to reporting, and to reiterate how important your reports are. Remember that seconds count, so make your report as soon as you possibly can. Always remember to report what you see as accurately and as concisely as possible. Never make assumptions about what you think you might be seeing. If you have any uncertainty at all, please tell us. Always use references to nearby towns in addition to roadways that you are on or near. Both are extremely helpful. Thank you for joining me for Mobile Storm Spotting Safety. We appreciate each and every one of you and all of your efforts to bring us reports to help save lives. Thank you.